What's up, everybody, and welcome back to All the Things Sorta Truth, the soaked-in alcohol reread of the Sorta Truth series by Terry Goodkind. I'm Nate.
And I'm Jade.
And this week we're going to be talking about Chapter 16 of Wizard's First Rule.
A heck of a good chapter.
Yeah, I really like this one. There's suspense, and then towards the back half of the chapter, you get to meet a really interesting character.
Right. I feel like we could just dive right in.
Yeah, so once again in this chapter, Richard and Kahlan are being chased out of their, camp, so to speak. Except now they have to tote Chase and Zed along with them.
Yeah.
And like we said just a second ago, we get to meet a really interesting character come the end of this chapter. So that's pretty much it. But at the end of the last chapter, Richard, Kahlan, Zed, and Chase are finally getting some rest. I mean, Zed and Chase are passed out, but they're sleeping, kinda.
Of a ways.
Yeah. And somebody pounds on the door. Kahlan jumps out of bed and she opens the door, and it's Bill. And Bill, I can picture him being super upset, which is understandable after you know what he says. But this guy, he was like, all right, everything was fine. Everything was fine. And then all of this shit happened. Bill explains that two big, bloody, blonde men, like Daharan soldiers, obviously.
Yeah.
He may not know that, but that's who they are. Came in asking about a lady that looked a lot like Kahlan. And they started heading upstairs. Obviously, Kahlan is noticeable.
Yeah, she stands out a bit.
Yeah. And when they started heading upstairs, the guy with the big red hair that was talking about raping Kahlan fucking killed one of them. And the other Daharan soldier started just slaughtering people, and it was an instant bloodbath. I guess that's why I laughed, because Bill, good old Bill, he made it out of this to run upstairs and warn our heroes, but he's got to be losing his shit, and he seems very calm in the book.
Yeah, because it's just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Things escalated very fast, obviously.
Right. And the rest of the men who weren't killed, right? Those guys are downstairs arguing about who's going to come up here and do what with, Kahlan. Or Richard. I don't know. He's supposedly very attractive too. But he's like, look, I already have shit in motion. Randy is bringing your horses around the back, and it's time for you to get the fuck out of here, because these people are definitely going to kill you.
Yeah, you're not going to make it out if you don't get out. And they burst out of the door and see Randy laying on the ground like a slug.
Yeah, that's a Christmas Story reference. I laughed. When they're like, Randy was on the ground. I was like, yeah, that motherfucker can't get up, can he?
And just as Big Red lunges at Richard.
Also, Scott Farkas, redhead dude.
Big Red? Yeah. Yeah, I see it.
Guy who knocked Randy down. Come on.
He misses and lands in the mud. Instead of killing him, Richard pistol whips him with the blade.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to spare you. He just cocks it a quarter turn. And he hits him with the flat of the blade.
Yeah.
I still think you would get cut, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well...
If he was even just the slightest bit off, you'd definitely get...
Yeah, it depends on, how it hit you. Like, if it hit a flat piece, maybe not, But if it hit, a fleshy piece, yeah, you'd probably still get cut.
I suppose you're right, though. I mean, maybe you hit him on the top of the head.
Yeah.
Your skin doesn't fold around the blade at all. It's just hard bone there. Crack.
Bounces off your dome.
Right. And he knocks him right the fuck out. He doesn't give him a love tap. He puts him down. So when Randy comes to and he sees Kahlan, he's got a big old grin on his face, and she's relieved because, he was obviously trying to protect her. And he's like, sorry, he jumped me. So, no, he wasn't really doing a brave act. He just got pushed down. You still feel for the kid, though.
Yeah. She tells him that he was very brave and he has nothing to apologize for, which is exactly what he wants to hear.
Okay, so at this point, they get outside, they have their stuff, they have Zed and Chase and the horses, and they're ready to go. And Richard tells Bill, look, put all the damages on the tab that the council is going to pay for, because apparently he just doesn't have to pay for shit. And if they refuse, he'll leave the head of the man responsible on a pike outside Michael's house. Seems like overkill, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thought he seemed like super weirdly aggressive at this point, too, because it wasn't like Michael's fault or the government's fault, really.
It was the Daharan government's fault.
Right. So there's no reason for him to be like, I'm gonna chop off the man responsible that works for Michael and leave it outside his house. Like, that's weird.
Right. And when you think about it, the government, they're going to present this bill and they're going to go, that's not our fucking thing.
Right.
They're never going to pay for that. And it's not out of this world to think that they wouldn't do that.
Right.
So him being like, I'm going to kill the motherfucker who doesn't say it's all right.
Because me and my girlfriend came through this inn and people chased us through it and caused a big mess.
Right. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. That, and also the fact that this conversation is happening at all right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't really make any sense. They have to go. Let's worry about the numbers later. Let's not die right now.
I kind of pictured the horse like antily, like prancing.
Yeah, he's chomping at the bit to go because there's a lot of commotion going on. Now we know one Daharan soldier was killed. The second one murdered a bunch of people and then he just fucking disappeared.
Right.
But in my mind, there's still an angry mob of people who are coming for Richard and Kahlan.
Yeah.
For one of a couple or both reasons.
Yeah.
And so there's still like an angry mob headed fucking out here. And that's why this conversation, I mean, I liked it, but they didn't really have time to talk about all this before they left.
Well, and he also tells Bill that Big Red is guilty of intent to murder and rape, and he should be hung before he wakes up. Because Richard's not going to kill him. You know, can't sully his good name by killing him. But like, hey, you should totally murder this dude.
This would have been a good first for Richard. I know that sounds awful, but really, no. He was totally going to kill Richard. He was totally going to rape Kahlan. There's no excuse for any of that. That dude needs to die, for sure. And I think if Richard's conviction is what he says it is, and I'm not trying to dispute that at all. Richard obviously feels the same way I do. This guy's a piece of shit and he needs to be murdered. No, executed. Murdered's too dirty. Then his sword would have totally let him.
Yeah.
And he would have been fucking angry. So he probably wouldn't have had to pay that much of the magical price that it takes from you.
Yeah.
Would have been a perfect guy to start off with. Just me.
No, I agree. Especially because it's just a little bit weird that he's like, well, you know, he killed a dude for me, kind of. So I'm just not going to kill him. You do it, though, after I leave.
That was the second thing. Does that make it better? Do I get a free pass for the rest of my life if I go find somebody who did something else bad and kill them? And be like, yeah, but I got that guy, so...
Dexter rules.
Exactly. I'm killing the bad guys, so it's fine.
As they mount up to leave, Bill says long life to the Seeker, and Richard tells him he wasn't mistaken in thinking that Bill wasn't a devious man, because he obviously knew who Richard was the entire fucking time.
Yeah, it actually kind of caught me off guard here, and it made me think back to when we met Bill. He eyeballed the sword for just a hot second, and it says it in there, and his eyes just lingered on the blade for a second, so I took that to mean he noticed that Richard had a sword. But after this, I think it means he recognized the sword of truth and he's like, oh, I gotta fucking help this guy. Yeah, so I just thought it was funny how he calls him out kind of lightheartedly, though. He's like, you fucking lied to me, but you're okay.
And then they ride into the night. And they're aware that there's one more Daharan soldier left, but Richard lets his mind wander anyways.
I don't understand why. Like, why, dude? You know what happened towards the beginning of the book with the Daharan soldiers. You know they can move faster than you in the woods. You know they can do it without you even noticing. And now you're going extra slow because you're toting two bodies behind you. It says that they are vigilant and they're aware that he's out there, so they're kind of on edge. But after a while, they relax. And like you said, his mind wanders. But it's 4 hours. It's 4 fucking hours. If you can stand to keep watch all night, this should be not that hard.
Because you're actually actively doing something, you mean? So you should have an easier time staying focused.
Yeah, they're not running right now, which is weird.
Yeah.
They're not like, we have to get away from the guy. He was just right there. He's still probably close by. Let's get a fucking move on.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a lack of urgency at this point, even though Zed is sick too. Bill tells him you better hurry up and get this dude where he's going.
Yeah, he says the look of those guys ain't good. So he just lets his mind wander, and he thinks about his father's murder. He worries about his friends, Zed and Chase. He wants them to be okay. He's wondering whether or not this bone lady is going to be able to do anything at all. And he wonders when the hell Kahlan is going to tell him what her fucking deal is. And he just comes to the conclusion that he's just going to ask her if she doesn't tell him soon. Which I thought it was kind of funny because in the beginning of the book, he's like, no, you have a secret, man. That's none of my business. And he has a secret.
Yeah, I had the same feeling. I was like, you're being a little bit hypocritical right now.
Yeah, you're pretty protective of your secret, and you're obviously not telling anybody, so maybe she feels the same way?
I mean, maybe the only reason that I could be a little bit more irritated in his position is because everybody else knows.
Yeah, I get your point. Everybody else knows. They all found out or were told in their time, but you are just left dangling.
Yeah.
With no real prospect of when you may be told.
Right.
Yeah, I guess I can see your point. So as all of this shit is going through his head, he looks around and he realizes that his surroundings, they're just different. There's something weird. Is it the light? Is it the air? It's off. And it has almost like a sacred feel to it.
Yeah, he wanted to say something to Kahlan, but the thought of talking and breaking the silence is like a sacrilege. He's like, no, we have to stay quiet and give this place the respect it deserves, because it feels like weird. And he understands why the men from the village are like, nah, we don't go over by Eddie's.
I mean, right, but at the same time, he's like, oh, this is a sacred place. It's not terrifying. It's not scary. It's just serene. And maybe a little beautiful. Mm-hmm. It makes sense to Richard why they don't want to come here, but the description wasn't awful.
And despite the fact that it wasn't, you still get the feeling, or at least I did for some reason, that it has a creepy feel.
A little scary. A little spooky.
Yeah. Yeah, spooky is a good word.
What is spooky, though, is when he spots the house.
Ooh.
Because this house is so blended into the background, he almost didn't notice it. And then it goes on to describe all the plants and stuff that are literally clawing to the side of the house. The house is like in a big bush. Well, ferns and trees and stuff of the like. So he damn near doesn't see it. But when he sees it, he sees a path. And in the center of the path that leads to the house is a woman.
So this lady is tall, but she's not as tall as Richard. She's standing there with a tan robe covered in yellow and red markings all over it. She has black and gray hair. She's only got 1 foot, so she's on a crutch.
Right. So this lady would already stick out.
Yeah.
And Richard's staring at her, and he notices that her eyes are pure white.
Yeah, creepy. Maybe creepy's not, maybe I shouldn't say creepy.
No, and that's something that's kind of hard to look away from, I think. And you would have one of those moments like, holy shit, you don't have any pupils, you don't have any color, nothing.
Yeah, and she was like waiting for them too, so.
Yeah, she was just standing there.
You would have assumed she could have seen them coming, but looking at her white eyes, it doesn't look like she could. But before we introduce this lady, we're going to introduce our beer for the evening. On tonight's beer break, we are drinking Peanut Butter Jelly Time Milkshake Stout from Rochester Mills Beer Company. This is part of the 12 days of milkshake stouts that we are drinking on the lead up to Christmas.
Yeah, I do like a good stout, especially during the winter. Helps keep you warm.
Fills you up.
But this beer is really good. I think they got the creaminess just right. I think maybe could have used a little bit more peanut butter flavor.
Knock it up a little bit higher, like